If you've never heard of a bipolar spectrum, you're not alone. Most people do not know it exists. Yet understanding the full spectrum and the distinction between bipolar 1, 2, and unipolar depression can absolutely save lives.
Over 50 million people are living with debilitating depression today. Yet millions are misdiagnosed. 1 out of 3 people diagnosed with depression actually have a form of bipolar. Their brains are on the bipolar spectrum. But most people have never heard of the bipolar spectrum, including practitioners who are prescribing the wrong medications. The wrong diagnosis can be deadly. People with bipolar brains are twice as likely to die by suicide as people with major depression. In the 11 years on average it takes to get a correct diagnosis and treatment, people are suffering and dying. But we have the power to change this. Through striking personal stories, cutting-edge brain science, and breakthrough therapies, BrainStorm the Film will save lives.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a spectrum, but I think it just varies a lot in how people present.
No two people are the same, even with so-called bipolar 1, and certainly not with bipolar 2.
For the longest time, I was in that place of closeted shame around this diagnosis. And I think there's so many negative stereotypes that society holds about what it means to have bipolar disorder and who has bipolar disorder.
I have been saying for the longest time, why is it that bipolar 2 disorder is always kind of the neglected aspect of bipolar disorder? 2 out of 3 people I meet who live with bipolar disorder do not have mania.
I'm thrilled you're doing this because I do think bipolar 2 disorder is it's often missed. And there's also often a misconception that it's a less severe version of bipolar disorder, and it's not.
Within mental health, arguably the most neglected top 10 burden of disability is bipolar disorder. And bipolar 2 is almost completely ignored compared to bipolar 1. So it is the most neglected of the most neglected of the most neglected.
Primary care doctors don't know as much about bipolar spectrum illness, I don't think, by a long stretch. Currently, I would say that most don't know who are primary care about how to treat this illness, what it looks like.
Clinicians I meet all over the world say, you know, Roger, I don't meet anybody who has bipolar disorder. I've got 1,000 people in my office with depression. None have bipolar. Well, clearly they do. Like I said, I have 1,000 people in my office with obesity, and nobody has diabetes, and nobody has cholesterol problems. Yes, they do. You're missing it.
It's so important that this film is being made to dispel the myths and hopefully reduce the stigma around bipolar disorder, bipolar spectrum.
Nothing has the ability to translate a story, a message into public consciousness the way that movies do.
Spotlighting different stories of people who have learned how to live with this diagnosis and have thrived in spite of it or because of it in many cases, I think is a really powerful and important charge as well that this film will help us do.
If there is one area that's in desperate need of literacy, it is bipolar spectrum. My goodness.
I really am excited you guys are doing this film. I look forward to showing it to my patients.
The truth is, academics can stand on soapbox and talk to each other until the cows come home. It's going to change nothing. We need community advocates. We need consumers. We need loved ones, people who understand this illness through lived experience, to be a voice for others